Okay, so we're diving into hosting Holly today, and it seems like everyone's talking about this book.
It's really making wave.
Yeah, and our listeners are really curious why.
Yeah.
What is it about this book that's, got everyone so hooked?
Yeah.
So I was thinking maybe we could start by looking at Joyce's journey, her
Absolutely.
sexual awakening,
Yeah.
and then those two really interesting characters, Holly and Dr. Stone.
Yeah, definitely.
And how the author kind of blends this eroticism with humor.
A great mix.
Yeah, and I think that'll help us kind of unpack
Yeah.
what's going on with this book.
For sure.
So what about this book really jumped out at you?
Well, I think the setup itself is really intriguing. You've got Joyce, a married woman who finds herself attracted to not just one, but two women. Holly, who's the 25-year-old daughter of her best friend.
Oh, wow.
And then Dr. Stone, who's her therapist.
Okay.
So you've got this double whammy of like forbidden attraction,
Right.
which is always a recipe for some juicy conflict.
It totally plays into those classic romance tropes, right?
Absolutely.
That forbidden love, that
Yeah.
unexpected attraction.
Yeah.
And the fact that Holly is described as like this really athletic, dazzling Hollywood intern just adds another layer to that whole
Oh, for sure.
temptation thing.
It's like this yearning for something she feels is missing.
Yeah, like what's going on in her life that's making these attractions so powerful?
Yeah.
Is she unhappy in her marriage? Is
Yeah.
there something deeper going on?
Exactly.
It's not just about the physical attraction. It's about what these women represent for Joyce.
It's about that deeper meaning.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And then on top of that,
Yeah.
you have Dr. Stone, and she's like guiding Joyce
Right.
through this whole exploration. But the fact that she's a therapist
Right.
just raises all these questions about,
It's a very interesting
the
dynamic.
ethics of their relationship.
Yeah.
Is she really just doing her job?
Yeah.
Or is
yeah.
there something more going on?
Yeah. Is she crossing boundaries?
Is she trying to help Joyce navigate these really new and confusing feelings?
Right. And that's what people are really picking up on. It's that ambiguity.
Yeah,
Because, therapists are supposed to be this safe and supportive space,
exactly.
but you have the potential for all this transference and counter-transference.
Right.
And so it just makes you wonder, is Dr. Stone truly objective here?
Yep.
Or is she getting wrapped up in Joyce's desires?
Oh, maybe even her own.
Maybe her own, exactly.
That's a really good point.
Yeah,
And if she is getting caught up in it all, is it ultimately helping Joyce?
right.
Or is it actually harming her?
Yeah, it's a tricky situation.
It's really tricky. And
Yeah.
I have a feeling that this book doesn't shy away from
I don't think so.
exploring those really gray areas.
I think it really dives in.
But let's not forget, it's also being marketed as,
Oh, yeah.
spice served ultra hot.
Hey.
Humor and snarky banter.
That's-
And, I mean, some of these reviews I've seen are pretty wild.
They're really something.
Like naughty characters and how Dr. Stone helps Joyce open up.
Yeah, it's very interesting.
So it seems like it's trying to be both titillating and insightful at the same time.
Yeah, I think that's a good way to put it.
Give the reader those steamy scenes, but also explore these really complex
Yeah.
ideas of desire and self-discovery.
Right.
And maybe the humor is a way to make those heavier themes
Maybe.
a little bit easier to digest,
Yeah, more
a
palatable.
little bit more empowering even.
Yeah, definitely. Sometimes laughter is the best way to deal with uncomfortable truths.
It's like the author saying, yes, this is a story about sexual exploration,
Yeah.
but we can still have fun with it.
Exactly. It doesn't have to be all serious and intense.
Right. And by using humor and wit,
Yeah.
maybe Paris Rivera is trying to create this more relatable and enjoyable experience for the reader,
Yeah, I think that's a good point.
even while tackling some pretty challenging subjects.
Yeah.
So we've got this really complex character, Joyce, who is grappling with her attraction to these two very different women, and a book that's walking this tightrope between eroticism and personal development.
Right.
And you mentioned that it's generating a lot of buzz.
It is.
What do you think it is about this book that's making people pay attention?
Well, I think it's a combination of factors. You have that forbidden love trope, which is always a draw.
Right.
People are fascinated by the idea of crossing boundaries, exploring desires that are maybe taboo.
Right.
But it's also the exploration of a woman's sexual awakening later in life. We don't see that very often.
That's true.
And I think it really resonates with readers, no matter their age, no matter their relationship status.
Especially those who are on their own journeys of self-discovery.
Exactly.
What about the setting?
Oh,
Do you
yeah.
think that plays into it at all?
Yeah, I mean, Hollywood intern,
Yeah.
glamorous therapist. I mean,
Yeah.
there's definitely a layer of escapism there.
Totally.
But at the same time, it taps into these very real desires, these very real anxieties that people have.
Right.
The yearning for excitement, the fear of being trapped,
Yeah.
the curiosity about what they might be missing.
Yeah, like, is there something more?
Yeah.
Am I missing out?
And I think those are very universal themes.
Yeah.
A lot of readers can identify with that, especially if they're feeling stuck.
Especially those who are feeling stuck or unfulfilled.
Exactly, yeah.
It's like the book is saying, hey, it's okay to question things, to explore your desires, to take a chance on something new, even if it scares you a little bit.
Yeah, I think that's a great way to put it.
So we have this message, combined with all this eroticism, the humor, the intriguing characters.
It's a potent mix.
It is.
And that's probably why hosting Holly is such a hot topic right now.
Yeah, I mean, you've definitely piqued my curiosity.
Good.
This whole deep dive has given me a new perspective on the book.
Oh, good. I'm glad.
It's not just a steamy romance. It's about self-discovery, about challenging societal norms, about having the courage to embrace who you truly are, even if it means taking some risks.
Exactly, and I think that's what makes it so fascinating. It's not just about that surface-level titillation. It's about the deeper questions it raises. Desire, identity, the complexities of human relationships.
Okay, so we've established that this book is complex, thought-provoking, and maybe even a little bit dangerous.
A little bit.
But let's zoom in on some of the specifics.
Okay.
You mentioned Joyce's sexual awakening.
Yeah.
What can you tell us about that?
Well, it seems like Joyce is feeling a bit lost. She's married, but her husband is a workaholic, and she's starting to feel neglected emotionally and physically. It's like she's going through the motions, but not truly living.
Right.
And then you have Holly, the daughter of her best friend, who comes to stay for a summer internship.
Hold on. The daughter of her best friend.
Yeah.
That's a pretty big twist.
Yeah, it is.
What does the book say about how Joyce handles that?
Well, it does a really great job of capturing that internal conflict.
Okay.
On the one hand, Joyce knows this is completely inappropriate.
Right.
Holly's young, the daughter of her best friend.
Right.
Acting on these feelings could have serious consequences.
Yeah.
But on the other hand, there's this undeniable pull, this awakening of desire that she's never experienced before.
Wow.
And it terrifies her as much as it excites her.
So it's like she's standing on the edge of a precipice.
Yeah, exactly.
Just torn between the safety of what she knows and the allure of the unknown.
Yeah, that's a great way to put it.
It sounds like she's in a real whirlwind of emotions.
It is.
But it's not just Holly, right?
No.
We also have Dr. Stone, who might be adding fuel to the fire.
Exactly. Dr. Stone is a fascinating character because she represents both guidance and temptation.
Okay.
On the one hand, she's supposed to be this source of support, helping Joyce navigate these feelings, make responsible choices.
But on the other
hand, the book hints that Dr. Stone might be encouraging Joyce to act on her desires, even if it means crossing boundaries.
It's really complicated.
Yeah, it's a very complicated dynamic.
And I think that's what's drawing readers in.
Yeah.
It's like the book is asking, what happens when the person you're supposed to trust with your deepest secrets is also the person who's tempting you to break all the rules?
It's a recipe for disaster, but also intense attraction.
Okay, so we have Joyce.
Yeah.
Who's torn between her attraction to Holly.
Right.
The forbidden fruit. And this really enigmatic Dr. Stone.
Yeah.
Her therapist, who might be blurring the lines between professional and personal.
Right.
Before we get into the specifics of these relationships and how they unfold, I want to take a step back and look at the bigger picture.
Okay.
What are some of the key themes that emerge from these initial conflicts?
Well, I think one of the most prominent themes is this idea of breaking free from societal expectations. You know, Joyce is a married woman.
Right.
And society often dictates that women in her position should be content, focused on family and stability.
Right.
But hosting Holly challenges that assumption.
Okay.
It suggests that women, regardless of their age or relationship status, can still experience intense desires and that those desires are valid.
It's like the book is saying, hey, it's okay to want more, to crave excitement, to explore your sexuality, even if it means breaking some rules.
Exactly. And that can be a really empowering message for a lot of women.
Especially for those who feel like they've been told to suppress their desires or to conform to certain expectations.
Exactly. Yeah.
But it's not just about breaking free from societal norms, is it?
Yeah.
There's also this strong element of self-discovery,
Yeah.
of Joyce figuring out who she is and what she truly wants.
Absolutely.
It's like she's going through a second adolescence.
It is.
A period of intense exploration and
Yes.
self-definition.
Mm-hmm.
And that can be both exhilarating and terrifying.
It can be both.
It's like she's finally stepping out of the shadow of her husband and her role as a wife and a mother.
Right.
And saying, okay, who am I? What do I want? And how do I get it?
Exactly. And that journey of self-discovery is something that so many people can relate to.
No matter what their gender is or their sexual orientation.
Yeah, it's a universal human experience.
It is.
To question our identity, to grapple with our desires, to find our own path in life.
So we have these really powerful themes of rebellion, self-discovery, this exploration of desire, all wrapped up in a story that's both erotic and humorous. It's a potent mix, and I can see why people are talking about it.
Yeah, for sure.
But let's dive a little deeper into those individual relationships.
Okay.
Starting with Holly, the forbidden fruit. What makes her so irresistible to Joyce?
Well, the book describes Holly as youthful, energetic, and full of life. She's 25, a Hollywood intern, so there's that element of glamour and excitement surrounding her. She's described as having an athletic figure and a dazzling smile, so there's a definite physical attraction there.
Okay.
But I think it's more than just that.
What do you mean?
I think Holly represents everything Joyce feels like she's missing in her own life.
Okay.
You know, she's carefree, spontaneous, and passionate about her work. She embodies this sense of freedom and joy that Joyce has perhaps forgotten.
So it's almost like Holly is a mirror.
Yeah.
Reflecting back to Joyce everything she yearns for.
Exactly.
Everything she feels like she's lost.
Yeah, and that can be incredibly seductive, especially when you're feeling stuck.
Yeah, like a reminder of a time when Joyce was younger, more carefree, more open to new experiences.
Yeah.
But it's not just the allure of youth and freedom, is it?
Yeah.
There's also the forbidden aspect.
Of course.
I mean, this is her best friend's daughter.
Yeah, it adds a whole other layer of complexity and danger.
Right, like the ultimate taboo.
Exactly.
Which can be incredibly alluring, especially for someone like Joyce, who's always played by the rules.
Yeah, it makes it that much more intense.
Right. Forbidden love, always a popular topic.
It is.
But we can't forget about Dr. Stone.
No, she's a key player.
Right, the therapist.
Yeah.
You mentioned that she's both a guide and a temptress. Could you elaborate on that a bit?
Sure. So Dr. Stone occupies this unique position of power and trust in Joyce's life.
Right.
As her therapist, she knows all of Joyce's intimate thoughts and vulnerabilities.
Right.
And she's the one Joyce turns to for guidance and support as she's going through all these new feelings.
So it's like she's holding a map to Joyce's inner world.
Yeah.
Helping her kind of make sense of this uncharted territory.
Exactly.
But you also said she's a temptress.
Yes.
How does that play out?
Well, that's where things get really interesting.
Okay.
The book suggests that Dr. Stone might be encouraging Joyce to act on her desires.
Oh, wow.
Maybe even blurring the lines of their professional relationship. It's never explicitly stated, but there are these hints, these subtle cues that make you question her motives.
Right.
And the ethical boundaries of their interactions.
That's a pretty bold move for the author.
Yeah.
To introduce that level of ambiguity into that therapist-patient dynamic.
Yeah.
I mean, ethically speaking, it definitely raises some red flags.
It does.
But I guess that's part of what makes it so compelling.
I think so.
It forces us to confront those really uncomfortable questions about power.
Yeah.
Consent, and the potential for manipulation.
Absolutely. And it plays into that classic question of whether therapists are truly objective.
Right.
Or if their own desires and experiences influence their interactions with patients.
Right. So in Dr. Stone's case, is she genuinely trying to help Joyce?
Right.
Or is there something more selfish at play?
Yeah. Is she attracted to Joyce?
Is she projecting her own unresolved issues?
Exactly. Those are all questions the book leaves open for interpretation.
And that's what sparks so much discussion and debate.
Yeah.
It's like the author's holding a mirror up to the therapy process itself.
Right.
Asking us to consider all the complexities and potential pitfalls of that really intimate relationship.
Yeah.
But we can't forget, this is also a romance novel.
That's right.
So how does the book balance these ethical concerns with the steamy, forbidden love aspects?
Well, that's the tightrope the author is walking.
Okay.
On the one hand, the book delivers on the promise of eroticism and forbidden attraction.
Okay.
The scenes between Joyce and Holly and Joyce and Dr. Stone are described as, ultra hot and filled with this, naughty banter.
Right.
But it's not just about gratuitous sex.
Okay.
The author uses those scenes to really explore Joyce's evolving sense of self, her growing confidence in her own desires.
So it's not just about the physical act itself.
No.
It's about what those encounters represent.
Exactly.
For Joyce's emotional and psychological journey.
Yeah, the sexual encounters are catalysts for growth.
Okay.
For pushing Joyce outside of her comfort zone, challenging her preconceived notions about herself and her sexuality.
It's like she's shedding those layers of societal expectations.
Right.
And embracing this more authentic version of herself.
Yeah.
One that's driven by her own desires and not dictated by what she thinks she should be feeling.
Exactly.
Or doing.
That's right.
And that's where the humor comes in.
Yes.
It's like a counterpoint.
It is.
To those heavier themes. Yeah. Providing these moments of lightness and self-awareness.
Yeah.
Amidst all this emotional turmoil.
Yeah.
It's almost like the author is winking at the reader.
Yeah.
Acknowledging the absurdity of the situation.
Yeah.
While still taking Joyce's journey seriously.
Right, exactly.
It's like saying, yes, this is intense and complicated, but we can still find humor in the midst of it all.
Exactly.
It makes the story feel more relatable.
I think so.
More human.
I agree.
I'm curious, how does Paris Rivera actually strike that balance?
It's a good question.
Between the steamy scenes and the humorous moments, does the humor undercut the seriousness of Joyce's exploration?
It's a great question, and I think it really depends on the reader.
Okay.
Some might find it jarring,
Okay.
a distraction from the emotional weight of the story.
Okay.
But I think it can also be seen as a way to make the story more accessible.
Okay.
To prevent it from being too heavy or melodramatic.
Like a pressure valve.
Yeah, exactly.
Releasing some of the tension.
Yeah.
Allowing the reader to catch their breath.
Right.
Before diving back into those emotional depths.
Yeah, and I think the author uses humor strategically to highlight certain aspects of Joyce's personality.
Yeah.
She's not this naive innocent who's suddenly swept off her feet.
Right.
She has a sense of humor about herself, even as she's making these life-altering discoveries.
Right. It makes her more relatable.
More grounded.
It's like the author saying, it's okay to laugh at yourself, even when you're going through something big and scary.
I think that's a great point.
Speaking of big and scary, let's talk about the forbidden aspect of these relationships.
Right.
We've already touched on the fact that Holly is her best friend's daughter.
Yeah.
Which is obviously a huge taboo.
It is.
But the book also explores the ethical boundaries of the therapist-patient relationship.
Right.
How does it handle those two different layers of forbidden attraction?
Well, the book definitely doesn't shy away from the complexity of those relationships.
Okay.
With Holly, there's that added layer of betrayal and the potential to really damage Joyce's friendship with her best friend.
Right.
And with Dr. Stone, there's that power imbalance that's inherent in the therapist-patient dynamic, which makes any romantic or sexual involvement inherently problematic.
It's like the author saying, here are two different types of forbidden love, each with their own set of risks and rewards.
Right. And the book doesn't offer easy answers or moral judgments.
Okay.
It just presents the situations and allows the reader to grapple with the complexities.
It's like a case study in ethical dilemmas.
It is.
Played out in the context of a steamy romance.
Yeah, a really interesting combination.
But I'm curious, does the book explore the potential consequences?
That's a good question.
Of these relationships?
Yeah.
Does Joyce face any real repercussions?
That's something we'll have to explore further as we delve deeper into the story.
Okay.
But I think it's safe to say that the book doesn't shy away from the potential fallout.
Okay, so we've talked about the ethical complexities, the steamy scenes, the humor, this idea of forbidden love. But let's not forget, at the heart of it all is Joyce.
Right.
And her journey of self-discovery.
Yes.
What does the book ultimately say about the nature of desire?
Well, I think it's saying that desire is a powerful force.
Okay.
And it's not something you can easily dismiss or control. It's not something that fades away with age or societal expectations. It can reawaken, it can evolve, and it can lead us down some unexpected paths.
It's like the book is saying, don't be afraid to listen to your desires, even if they challenge your beliefs or make you feel uncomfortable.
Exactly. And I think that's a message that really resonates with a lot of readers.
It does.
It's a reminder that we are all constantly evolving.
Yeah.
And our desires are part of who we are, not something to be ashamed of or suppressed.
So it's not just a romance novel.
No.
It's a story about embracing your true self.
It is.
Even if it means breaking some rules and defying expectations.
Absolutely. And that's what makes it so powerful and thought-provoking.
It's a reminder that life is a journey, not a destination. And sometimes those unexpected detours can lead to the most profound discoveries.
I agree.
This deep dive has been so insightful.
Yeah, it has.
It's amazing how a seemingly straightforward romance novel can spark so many discussions and raise so many important questions.
It really is.
It really shows the power of storytelling to challenge our assumptions, to expand our perspectives, and make us think about the world in new ways.
Absolutely.
Well said.
Thank you.
So for our listeners out there, if you're looking for a book that's both entertaining and thought-provoking, one that will make you laugh, gasp, and maybe even blush a little,
maybe
Hosting Holly might just be the book for you.
Yeah, it could be.
And if you're ever feeling lost or confused on your own journey of self-discovery, just remember that it's never too late to explore,
Right.
to question, to embrace your desires, to write your own story.
It's never too late.
Beautifully said.
Thank you.
Until next time,
Yeah.
keep those pages turning,
Yes.
keep those conversations flowing, and keep diving deep
Keep diving.
into the stories that make us think, feel, and grow.
Absolutely. Yeah. So we were talking about Joyce and her journey and those two really captivating women in her life.
Right, Holly and Dr. Stone.
Exactly.
And you were about to tell us more about Dr. Stone.
Yes. So as we were saying, she's in this really unique position.
Okay.
A position of power and trust in Joyce's life.
Right, as her therapist.
Exactly. She has access to all of Joyce's most intimate thoughts,
Right.
all those vulnerabilities.
Yeah.
And she's the one Joyce turns to
Okay.
for guidance and support as she's navigating all these new and unfamiliar feelings.
Like she's holding the map.
Yeah, like a guide.
Yeah, to Joyce's inner world.
Exactly.
Helping her make sense of all this uncharted territory.
Yeah, that's a great way to put it.
But you also called her a temptress.
Right, that's where things get really interesting.
Okay, how so?
Well, the book suggests that Dr. Stone might actually be encouraging Joyce to act on her desires.
Why, really?
Even blurring the lines of their professional relationship.
Okay.
Now, it's never explicitly stated,
Right.
but there are these hints,
Okay.
these little subtle cues that really make you question Dr. Stone's motives and the ethical boundaries of their interactions.
That's a pretty bold move for the author.
It is. It really is.
I mean, to introduce that level of ambiguity into that whole therapist-patient dynamic.
Yeah, it's definitely raising some eyebrows.
Yeah. I mean, ethically speaking,
Right.
that raises some red flags.
It does.
But I guess that's also what makes it so compelling.
Yeah, it's that tension.
Right.
It forces us to confront these uncomfortable questions about power,
Right.
consent, and the potential for manipulation.
And it plays into that age-old question
Exactly.
of whether therapists are truly objective,
Right.
or if their own desires and experiences inevitably color their interactions with their patients.
Absolutely, yeah.
So in Dr. Stone's case, is she really trying to help Joyce?
Right.
Or is there a more selfish motivation at play?
Yeah, is she attracted to Joyce?
Is she projecting some of her own unresolved issues onto Joyce?
Exactly, and those are all questions that the book leaves open to interpretation.
It's like the author is holding up a mirror
Right.
to the therapy process itself.
Yeah, it's almost like a meta-commentary.
Right, making us think about all the complexities and the potential pitfalls
Absolutely.
of that really intimate relationship.
Yes, it's fascinating.
And a little bit unnerving.
Yeah, for sure.
But let's not forget, this is a romance novel.
That's right.
So how does the book balance these ethical concerns with the steamy and forbidden aspects of this story?
Well, that's the balancing act, isn't it?
Yeah.
On one hand, you have the eroticism, the forbidden attraction,
Okay.
the scenes between Joyce and Holly and Joyce and Dr. Stone.
Yeah.
They're described as, ultra hot, naughty banter.
Right.
But on the other hand, it's not just about gratuitous sex.
Okay.
The author actually uses those scenes to explore Joyce's evolving sense of self.
Okay.
Her growing confidence in her own desires.
So it's not just about the physical act.
No.
It's about what those encounters represent.
Exactly. They're catalysts for growth.
Okay.
They push Joyce out of her comfort zone.
Right.
They challenge her preconceived notions
About herself.
about herself and her sexuality.
It's like she's shedding those layers of societal expectations
Right.
and embracing a more authentic version of herself.
Yes.
One that's driven by her desires, not by what she thinks she should be feeling or doing.
Exactly.
And I feel like that's where the humor comes in.
Yes,
That's
absolutely.
like a counterpoint to all those heavier themes.
It is. It provides a bit of lightness.
Right.
A bit of self-awareness.
Yeah, amidst all that emotional turmoil.
Exactly. It's like the author is winking at the reader,
Yeah.
acknowledging the absurdity of the situation.
But still taking Joyce's journey seriously.
Absolutely.
It's like saying, yes, this is intense and complicated, but we can still find the humor in it.
Exactly. It makes the story more relatable, more human.
So how does Paris Rivera strike that balance
That's a great question.
between the steamy scenes and the humor?
Yeah, I think it depends on the reader.
Okay.
Some people might find the humor a bit jarring,
Okay.
maybe a distraction from the emotional weight of the story.
Yeah.
But I think it can also be seen as a way to make the story more accessible,
Okay.
to prevent it from becoming too heavy or melodramatic.
Like a pressure valve,
Exactly.
releasing some of the tension,
Yeah.
giving the reader a chance to catch their breath
Right, before diving back in.
before diving back into those emotional depths.
Exactly. And I think the author uses humor strategically
Okay, how so?
to highlight certain aspects of Joyce's personality.
Okay.
You know, she's not some naive innocent
Right.
suddenly swept up in all this.
Yeah.
She has a sense of humor about herself.
Okay.
Even as she's going through these really life-altering discoveries.
It makes her feel more real,
Yeah, more grounded.
more relatable.
Exactly.
Like the author's saying, it's okay to laugh at yourself even when you're going through something big and scary.
Yeah, I love that.
Okay, well, speaking of big and scary,
Yeah.
let's talk about the forbidden aspect of all of this.
Okay.
I mean, we've talked about Holly being her best friend's daughter,
Right.
which is a huge taboo.
It is.
But the book also explores the ethical boundaries of the therapist-patient relationship.
Right. Another layer.
How does the book handle those two very different layers of forbidden attraction?
Well, it certainly doesn't shy away from the complexity of those relationships.
Okay.
I mean, with Holly, there's that added layer of betrayal,
Right.
the potential to really hurt Joyce's relationship with her best friend and
Yeah.
Dr. Stone.
Yeah.
You have that inherent power imbalance in the therapist-patient dynamic, which
Yeah.
makes any romantic or sexual involvement really problematic,
Yeah.
ethically speaking.
It's like the author saying, here are two different types of forbidden love,
Exactly.
each with their own set of risks and rewards.
Mm-hmm. Right. And the book doesn't offer any easy answers
Okay.
or moral judgments.
Mhm.
It just lays out the situation,
Right.
lets the reader grapple with those complexities.
Like a case study in ethical dilemmas,
It is, yeah.
but played out in the context of this steamy romance.
Right. It's an interesting mix.
I'm curious, though, does the book explore the potential consequences of these relationships?
That's a good question.
Does Joyce face any real repercussions for her actions?
You know, that's something we'll have to delve deeper into as we continue.
Okay.
But I think it's safe to say that the book doesn't shy away from the potential fallout.
Okay, so we've talked about the ethical complexities,
Yeah.
the steamy scenes,
Right.
the humor,
Mm-hmm.
this idea of forbidden love.
Right. It's all there.
But at the heart of it all
Yeah.
is Joyce
Mm-hmm.
and her journey of self-discovery.
Exactly.
What does this book ultimately have to say about the nature of desire?
Well, I think it's saying that desire is this incredibly powerful force. It's not something you can just easily dismiss or control. It's not something that just disappears with age
Okay.
or because of societal expectations.
Right.
It can reawaken,
Mm-hmm.
it can evolve,
Okay.
and it can lead us down some really unexpected paths.
It's like the book is saying, don't be afraid to listen to your desires, even if they make you uncomfortable or challenge your beliefs.
Exactly. And that message is resonating with so many people.
It really is.
You know, it's this reminder that we're all constantly evolving.
Yeah.
And our desires, they're a part of who we are.
Right.
They're not something to be ashamed of.
Or suppressed.
Exactly.
So it's not just a romance novel.
No, it's much more than that.
It's a story about embracing your true self.
Yeah.
Even if that means breaking some rules,
Mm-hmm.
defying expectations.
Absolutely.
And that's what makes it so powerful and thought-provoking.
It is. It's a reminder that life is a journey.
Not a destination.
Exactly.
And sometimes those detours, those unexpected twists and turns, lead to the most profound discoveries.
Couldn't agree more.
This has been such a fascinating deep dive.
It has been.
It's amazing how a seemingly straightforward romance novel
Yeah.
can spark so many discussions
Yeah.
raise so many really important questions.
It's the power of storytelling.
It really is.
Challenging assumptions, broadening perspectives, making us think about the world differently.
Well said, well said.
Thank you.
So, to our listeners,
Yeah.
if you're looking for a book that's entertaining and thought-provoking, one that'll make you laugh, gasp, maybe even blush a little,
Yeah.
Hosting Holly might be the book for you.
It could be.
And if you're ever feeling lost or confused on your own journey of self-discovery,
Yeah.
remember, it's never too late
It's never too late.
to explore,
Yeah.
to question, to embrace your desires,
Right.
to write your own story.
Absolutely.
Beautifully said.
Thank you.
Okay, so we've talked a lot about how Hosting Holly really dives into these forbidden desires and self-discovery. But I'm curious,
Yeah.
where does it fit in the larger world of sapphic romance?
Right.
Does it break new ground, or does it kind of stay in familiar territory?
I think that's the question a lot of people are asking.
Yeah.
Critics and readers alike.
Right.
Like, on the one hand, it hits those familiar beats, right?
Yeah.
The forbidden love, the steamy encounters, the
Yeah.
journey of self-acceptance.
But there's something about the way Paris Rivera handles those themes
Yeah.
that feels fresh and insightful.
I agree.
Like, for example, how she tackles a woman's sexual awakening later in life.
Right.
That's not something we see very often,
Not at all.
especially in romance novels.
Right. It's usually younger characters discovering their sexuality for the first time.
Right, exactly.
And I think Joyce's story really speaks to a different audience, an audience that might feel overlooked
Right.
or even invisible in mainstream media.
It challenges that assumption that desire and exploration are only for young people.
Exactly.
It's like this reminder that sexuality can evolve and change throughout our lives.
Right.
And that it's never too late to embrace those changes
Yeah.
and discover new parts of yourself.
It's never too late.
It's like the book is saying,
Yeah.
just because you're married or older doesn't mean you stop wanting things
Exactly.
or desiring things or exploring things.
Right.
And it's a really powerful message,
It is.
especially in a culture that often equates youth with desirability.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I also love how the book doesn't shy away from the messiness of that exploration.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, Joyce's journey isn't always pretty.
It's not a fairy tale.
No, she makes mistakes.
She does.
She hurts people.
She questions everything.
She does.
She thought she knew about herself.
Right. But it's through those struggles
Yeah.
that she ultimately arrives at this deeper understanding
Right.
of who she is and what she wants.
It's a process.
And that rawness, that vulnerability,
Yeah.
it just makes the story feel so much more authentic, so much more relatable.
Yeah, it's not just some fantasy.
Right.
It's a reflection of real human desire.
With all its complexities.
But that's
And we can't forget about that whole therapist-patient relationship,
Right.
which is so taboo,
It is.
but also so fascinating.
Yeah. I mean, hosting Holly really forces us to think about those power dynamics.
Right.
The boundaries,
Mhm.
potential for exploitation.
It's like the author is saying,
Yeah.
let's not pretend these issues don't exist.
Right.
Let's bring them out into the open and really examine them.
Even if it makes us a little uncomfortable.
Exactly. And by doing that,
Yeah.
the book opens up this whole conversation
Right.
about ethical behavior,
Absolutely.
consent,
Mm-hmm.
and navigating relationships responsibly.
Then with awareness.
Right. And we've touched on how the author blends those really intense scenes
Yeah.
with humor.
Right. It's a tough balance.
It is. Do you think that plays a role in whether this book pushes boundaries?
I do. I think the humor adds this layer of complexity and self-awareness to the story. It prevents it from becoming too heavy
Right.
or melodramatic.
Yeah. And it also lets the reader connect with Joyce on a more human level.
Exactly.
I mean, she's not just this character caught in a whirlwind of passion.
Right.
She's a real woman
Yeah.
with a sense of humor, flaws and vulnerabilities that make her so relatable.
Absolutely.
It's like the author is saying,
Yeah.
this is a story about sex and desire,
Yeah.
but it's also about real people with all their complexities and contradictions.
Right. And I think that's what makes Hosting Holly stand out.
Yeah.
It's not just a romance novel.
Right.
It's a story about the complexities of desire, self-discovery,
Yeah.
and those ethical dilemmas that can come up when we step outside our comfort zones.
Exactly.
It's a book that makes you think,
Yeah.
feel,
Mm-hmm.
and question things,
It does.
all while keeping you entertained.
This has been such a fascinating deep dive.
It has.
It's incredible how this seemingly straightforward romance novel
Yeah.
can spark so many conversations and raise so many important questions.
It really speaks to the power of storytelling.
It does.
To challenge us, to make us think differently.
To help us grow.
Absolutely.
Well, that about wraps up our deep dive into hosting Holly.
It does.
For our listeners out there, if you're looking for a book that's thought-provoking, entertaining, one that'll make you laugh, make you think, maybe even blush a little, Hosting Holly might just be the book for you.
It could be.
And until next time, keep those pages turning.
Keep reading.
Keep those conversations going.
Yeah.
And keep diving deep into the stories that make us think, feel, and grow.